So Anthropic just confirmed that it is designing its own chips for Claude. We had a very interesting legal outcome with the US Appeals Court with Comet winning on appeal. Some very interesting ramifications of that. There's stuff going on with Cloudflare, with Google. Let's kick off though with Anthropic confirming it's designing its own chips for Claude. Nick, what is the TLDR for the Stacked podcast viewers right now?
Yeah, I mean, compute has been the constraint for quite a while. And a lot of these companies, like OpenAI and Anthropic, are starting to look past current constraints at future constraints. And one way to solve the constraint of compute is, hey, rather than rely on companies like NVIDIA to design and create chips, why don't we build all of that stuff ourselves? It's just another step towards AI companies vertically integrating literally everything into themselves and using their overpowering kind of knowledge asymmetry to win.
100%. So Anthropic have come back and said for the first time, it is developing its own custom silicon team and it is hiring chip designers to do it. The stated goal is to co-design, build the chip and the model to fit one another rather than fitting Claude to somebody else's accelerator. Apple did this very well classically, marrying the hardware and the software together. Now, nothing has been built yet. Anthropic still runs on AWS, Google, NVIDIA, and AMD, and its own statement says that that is true. Very interesting. What does this mean for model capabilities? We don't know yet what this may or may not unlock. NVIDIA have done this with Nematron, I think is their like model name, something along those lines. So it's going to be very interesting to see what that looks like. Anthropic is... Their profits are blowing up right now. We'll pull the graph up in a second. Same with OpenAI. I was looking at it today. It is ridiculous. They are vertically integrating. They're working their way down the supply chain. The only way down is the chip. The application layer is up, which again, OpenAI had been accused of doing this. A lot of big companies do this as well. If you look at the supermarket industry, for example, what they often do is they will stock. Nick, say you start a jam company. You start selling jam in these big companies. It starts flying off the shelves. Next thing you know, Walmart jam just came out. Asda jam just came out. So people are increasingly paranoid. Businesses are getting paranoid about the products and the IP and the discussions that they're having now on OpenAI, on Anthropic, on these models, in case they decide to vertically integrate back upwards in the application layer. So we're seeing downward integration. Until they start opening an energy company, I don't think they'll go that far, but the chips is another great bet.
Oh, I think they'll eventually go to energy, man. I kind of think they'll
Anthropic energy.
Everything. Maybe not even Anthropic specifically, but just model companies in general. Because what you're talking about, that vertical integration, like it doesn't stop here at the chips. I think it's just going to keep going. It's going to keep going until these companies are buying drones to encase the sun as a Dyson sphere for solar energy. Like there is no other, I think, crazy outcome but that. Like consider Costco. And I don't know, I'm just talking at my ass here. I'm not sure. But like Costco, massive market dominance, right? Maybe it starts off buying somebody else's chickens to make their, to cut up their nice, beautiful chicken breasts and get them nice rotisserie chickens on. But eventually, like you own the market. And when you own the market and there really is no more growth and distributing to be done, like in order to continue to increase margins and then have total control over the quality of the product as well to keep people with you, like you do end up having to kind of spread out, right? You do end up having to, start buying your own chicken coops, right? Start buying feed for those chickens, improving the quality of the supplementation of the chicken so that your chicken ends up tastier and better than everybody else's. They're just doing the exact same thing. And it's actually kind of like a pretty standardized business playbook to vertically integrate when you've got that far. So that's, I don't see any other alternative. Like where else are they going to go, man? These guys already own basically the planet Earth's knowledge. Now it's just about making it better and more efficient.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And I think vertical integrate, because what would the bull case be? The bear case. The bear case would simply be you're getting distracted. Stay out of a chip game, keep your mouth shut, and keep building beautiful models. Let us worry about the infrastructure, and you put your intellectual capital on this. That said, though, I think the bull case is quite strong for this, actually, because there is one question about should a frontier lab, who we expect to focus on models, be thinking about chips? Two big use cases come to mind, and three, in fact, why this is important. Number one, the stranglehold around their business. If they are entirely dependent on chips and they are essentially at the behest of NVIDIA or China for those chips, that can drive margin up at any time. So that's a risk, right? Secondarily, if the performance of the product could meaningfully be significantly better, and we can custom fit the model and the chip together, that will unlock a competitive advantage if that's true. And thirdly, I think if you look at how they're growing, what they're focusing in on, they're only going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and they're capped, and they are investing for the future. They're like their income right now is going exponential. It is wild how much money they're making, especially when we see people using GLM 5.2. Significant amount of money are going to these individual models. So I would say it does make sense. Actually, they are thinking very, very long term. But what we don't want to see is a loss of focus on the frontier models right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I would prefer they stay focused as well. But I think eventually, if you think about it, like the intelligence that they'll have access to, aka Fable 6, Fable 7, are just going to be so smart that in order to really optimize its inference and then grow to the size they want to, like no physical tertiary third party will ever be able to actually fulfill that. So they're just going to apply all that intelligence to like make the best chips ever. Like, I mean, I'm sure they're going to train these models out the ass with like chip design, chip fab and stuff like that. Just make them way better than anything, anybody else could do, who's even 6 months behind. And that's really that first mover advantage in AGI, right? It's like whoever like hits that point first allows the models themselves to start improving their intelligence. They're doing so on the software side. So I bet you they've now started thinking, okay, how can we do so on the hardware side as well? So whether this change meaningfully affects Anthropic in the next year or so, 2 years, 3 years, I don't know, still sort of up for grabs. But yeah, I mean, as we know, hardware confers a very large advantage over a long period of time, but it can take a fair amount of time to get there.
Yeah, and also it will mean that they can pass on frontier model intelligence at a lesser cost because their fixed cost base goes down. So there's an inbuilt benefit in doing that. There's a question about, does it make the industry healthier or not that they're doing it? Probably, I would say so. Although you just need to be careful. We have at the moment a duopoly, realistically, with OpenAI and Anthropic. Others are taking stabs at it, but realistically, we've got a duopoly. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how they play off against each other.
Agreed. I find, by the way, our AI image generator kind of interesting here. Is that how they make the chips?
Dude, that is an actual shot from the
Put
factory.
a big wafer in between a vice clamp and just start picking at it.
Dude, that's exactly what happens. The AI was done on the ground floor.
Hey, so what about Comet winning on appeal? Tell us about that.
Yes. So this was a legal case. It went actually, obviously, to, I think the highest court. The highest court, I think, was the Ninth Circuit. So I'm not too afraid with every single court name in the U.S. appeals. But what's really relevant here, the TLDR, if you like, Nick, is that the U.S. Appeals Court vacated the preliminary injunction that had kept Perplexity's Comet browser off Amazon. So they basically kept the browser, they kicked it off Amazon. And they basically said that Perplexity does not access Amazon servers under the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, because its users do. So from what I can glean here, the question's about who is it again? Is it the AI or is it the user? So the TLDR in a nutshell would be the Ninth Circuit vacated the injunction that had barred Perplexity, their Comet browser, shopping agent from Amazon, which, to be fair, I think is crazy. Like, as a user, I do want my agent buying things for me on Amazon. That is like one of the very first things I think about when I think about autonomous agentic systems is go and order me milk and eggs. Like,
Yeah.
I don't need Amazon telling me no. Like, dude, just let it go. Like, relax. You got other things to focus on, like buying an office in freaking Budapest, which you don't have currently.
Do they not?
So the holding here is the user accesses Amazon, not Perplexity. So building the tool is not computer fraud. So very interesting, actually. The big takeaway, though, Nick, and we'll come to it in a second, is that the court held that it's a tool, not a person. So have a look at what they said here. The panel's core move is simple, and it is why this matters beyond Perplexity. So Comet receives what the user's own browser captures, and then they forward it on. So the entity accessing Amazon's computer is actually the user. Comet is simply a middleman in that entire process. The assistant is, in the court's framing, a tool and not a person for statutory purposes. Everything else is the opinion, and that kind of follows on from that line, which I think is fair and reasonable to me.
Yeah, no, that's logical. I mean, it's like a tool being used to access something. It doesn't have its own necessary autonomy to do so. But you got to understand why Amazon's doing that too, right? Like, they're doing it because they probably want to develop their own shopping agent. And Perplexity's Comet takes a big chunk of their share away from them. So they just want to set precedent. Anybody that tries to do this stuff with Amazon will face a little bit of friction. Don't fuck with us right off the bat. I
And why
agree.
not?
I have my
Mm.
yeah, I mean, like, they're loaded. If you think about it, their whole thing right now is just sheer market dominance, sheer market cap, sheer brand power, and then sheer money. So, like, if somebody is fucking with you on turf, pardon my French, that you can't really fight them on, because I don't know, maybe they don't have their own internal intelligences at the point of Perplexity's Comet or whatever, like, you might as well throw everything else you can at them to stop them, right? Everything that, isn't so it's like they're playing in like the coding arena, and then Amazon's like, I can't win there, so why don't I take them to like the legal battle arena and try holding them there for as long as possible? And maybe by the time we're done, our coding scores can go up, and we can actually have an agent that our team and members use in order to buy products. At least that would be my like strategic take.
I like that, man. But it's the heart of this question is ascribing responsibility to agents. Let's take a classic example. Yesterday, which I'm sure all 17 of you watched, we discussed DeepSeek. And we talked about how the fact that we're getting near frontier capabilities for fractions of the prices. People like to just debate the frontier bit, but it's a very, very good model. And let's say these agents go out into the wild and they do something they shouldn't do. And it's not something that you would have known they've done. Who bears the responsibility? Now, there are 1,000 different examples that we could use, right? Maybe an AI is taking over your customer service and it says something offensive because it's a probabilistic system and it doesn't get it right 100% of the time. Who is responsible for that? Is it the AI agent or is it the human? What if Anthropic servers malfunction and the model just becomes incredibly dumb and just starts saying things? So this is an evolving legal question about the responsibility of the AI agent. Now, one question I think is worth discussing here is whether or not a website should be able to refuse your AI agent whilst allowing you. What's your take on that, Nick?
Absolutely. I mean, this is just basic anti-scrape controls. And I say this not as somebody that is like anti-scraping. I've been scraping websites from freaking day one. But like you can expect most websites to have some form of anti-scrape protocol in place. Now, a lot of them are using one vendor, Cloudflare, in order to do that, open up captchas and stuff. But if you don't, I mean, just think about like traditional server architecture. Every request to a web page actually consumes a little bit of their resources. So a very common
Mm.
attack way back in the day was basically flooding a server with as many requests to a resource as possible. And then those guys get billed really massively at the end of the month. They can't pay for it. They go offline. Amazon's pretty big, so the probability of that occurring is quite low. But you need to understand that every single page request does incur them some sort of cost in their infrastructure. If you have in 2022, 0 AI agents accessing their pages. In 2026, you have, 1 billion AI agent hits per day. They're going to want any way possible to minimize that load. And so that is obviously part of the cost equation here as well. And it's likely a big chunk of why they did that. How many requests does the average AI agent make versus like a human being on a web page? Anyway, probably 100 times as many because it has to navigate it a little bit differently too.
That is very interesting. I didn't really think of this from a attack vector point of view. I was thinking about it more from point of view of, hey, go and order me a very, very high cut tank top, for example.
A very high
And it,
cut.
it obviously disobeys. It disobeys all the time. So it's like I think like obviously there needs to be some degree of control, and oftentimes they do that. Like the school platform, for example, where we have our beautiful communities, they won't let you hit that API beyond X number of times in Y minutes. So I think they're assistant for this, Cloudflare for that. But if it's the actual, and the Comet, I don't think was doing this. Comet wasn't blasting and scraping their stuff. Like, who hasn't scraped Amazon 1,000 times? I haven't, but who hasn't done that? This is more, the accessibility, the time saving, the ability, why do I have to go onto Serbia Air's website to check in? Why can this not be done by my Hermes agent? Why can this not be done by OpenClaw? I know you've got some thoughts on OpenClaw, but why does this have to be done by me? I think it's crazy. So I think the web, what this is telling me is that the AI has essentially outgrown the current infrastructure, which is why Firecrawl, companies like Firecrawl are interesting because they're trying to think about the web from an AI's point of view. Because increasingly, AI agent use on the web will crush human use on the web because there's just no point is going on there. Not to mention the fact that we're using it less anyway. Basically, we just ask ChatGPT now, and it tells us because it has way more context and it's just a lot more helpful.
Hmm. Yeah, agreed. No, this isn't exactly what I was looking at. And granted, this is quite a while back, but this is like monthly AI agent traffic on, I think, a website growing over time. And you can see how in just the span of a couple of months, it went from maybe less than 1.5 mil page views to maybe around 2 mil page views to now something like, I don't know, 4.25. And you can see a big chunk of that was from the Comet browser. So this is
Mhm.
just one website, sort of counting up the number of visits. I would anticipate like a lot of websites just aren't really built for it. As you mentioned, like we're operating both off legal infrastructure, but also like literal infrastructure where it's probably a lot of page visits and page views. And they just want to make sure that they get a handle on it before being 100% sure. They just want to make sure to set the precedent, I suppose.
Well, what happened to the AI browsers, Nick?
Oh
Because
God.
they were a big deal for a week, and then they were, and in fact, I could type in any number of these AI browsers, and we could find some interesting content on it, and interesting points of view on it. I think we were all very excited. I think, typically speaking, what's happening here with these technologies are they're releasing, we're getting excited, we test it, but then you have to have some kind of, they're kind of like experiments, I think, in a way, right? They're like, let's see if this sticks. Is the long-term utility really there? And it's curious to me why the AI browser. In fact, guys, let us know down below. All 17 of you right now. Like, do you actually? I'd be so curious to know this. Use an AI browser, like genuinely. And if you don't, why not? Like, what is it specifically? I would bet that the reason is it just didn't. People are just creatures of habit. And for you to move over and use a different browser, I think it's got to do something wild. I really think it's got to do something huge. I mean, I could be wrong. I mean, like, I'm actually going to check the data right now, but most people I've asked this question to haven't touched AI browsers. So let's see if we can get some actual data on it. But Nick, are you using AI browsers right now?
Not at all. I tried for a little bit. I really did. I was like, maybe this is the new way to browse the web. It's not. It's just Chrome plus a little sidebar, and I can do the sidebar myself with Claude. So until there's some genuine functional change in how this works, I don't see anybody moving over from their default experience. Like, what change would you need to see? The only change I can even think of that would actually like genuinely be an AI powered new thing. I'm sure people have talked about this before, but if you haven't heard of it, maybe rip it from me and start a $1 billion business. Is some sort of like filter where all of the page data goes through an AI first, okay, before it goes to you. Then maybe it modifies it in some way. So maybe it's like a visual filter that like makes all the websites look the way that you want them to look. Maybe it's an information filter where it's not just a keyword based filter. It's actually like a little bit smarter than that. So if information comes up that like maybe you don't want to talk about or see, maybe, I don't know, just off the top of my head here, Donald Trump media. Like I cannot scroll X for 5 damn minutes without seeing Donald Trump everywhere. So I actually just blocked him on a keyword basis. But that doesn't allow me, not to have to, suffer his presence on other parts of the web internet. You know what I mean? So
Interesting.
imagine if you had like an anti-politics filter where you're just like, I don't want to see any politics, and then you don't see it. Or like, I don't know, man, just anti-other filters. That would be a genuine improvement, but we don't have that right now. Latencies are too high, and it would just be a massive pain in my ass. So, yeah, no, nobody's really there.
That's interesting. And if you look at the graph, for example, what this is showing, Comet. Now, Perplexity doing some really cool moves, but I think this, typically speaking, is kind of what I imagined was happening. Like they released it, it was underground, it took a few months to
Mm.
blow up. This was the point at which everyone was loving it and trying it out. But what we didn't see was the increase here. It kind of had a few more pumps. So people gave it kind of 2 months. And then it's settling back down to kind of the levels it was here. So this kind of trends broadly with what I've kind of seen people's uses on that with the browser. But from Perplexity's point of view, if you think about it, it's a good bet. I mean, why wouldn't you do that? Because I think at the time, there was a time when ChatGPT didn't do internet search
Yep.
for ages. And people forget, man. People forget all the time, man. Like ChatGPT didn't use the internet. So
Yeah,
Perplexity
back
was
in
the
the
internet
days.
browser, and that was its thing. And like this is the classic stories all the time. That basically they just add the functionality in, and all the businesses adjacent to it have to either pivot because you don't really want to be fighting against OpenAI or Anthropic if you can help it. If you're a startup,
Man, it feels like a lifetime ago, but it was really just a few years ago that we didn't have web search enabled in these models. I remember when web search came out and it was like massive foundational improvement, right? Like that
Yeah.
was a game changer because the big issue up until then was hallucination. There's just no way to cross-check or verify. And like you had to like, get everything from the internet into a markdown file, put it like around the model, give it manual context. Now it could do it itself. It was literally like, oh, this is it. AGI's arrived. I remember I'm pretty sure I either texted or I called my friend and I was like, dude, web search is unlocked. Like the singularity is here. And this was like probably 2023 or 2024, right?
Okay, so this is an interesting question, actually. What do you think the frontier model was exactly 1 year ago?
Is it 03, if I had to guess?
03. I didn't even remember 03, Nick. 03 is a distant memory to me. I didn't want to know it. All right, so I'm having a look now. My guess would be, dude, would it be like Claude Opus 4? Did he have a different name back then?
Even out? No, I think it was Opus, but I feel like it was still 3.5 level. No?
Whoa. Okay. What's your final guess? You said something.
03. Yeah, I think 03 is my final guess. 1 year
Okay,
ago.
let me tell you what you were dealing with. Okay, now I want you to imagine for a second that this is the model you need to use for the rest of the year. Okay? There were 3.
Okay.
Now, Nick, don't drop that pen. Don't drop that pen. Arguably in front was Gemini 2.5 Pro, followed closely behind, and this actually happened on the same day, Claude Opus 4.1. And then we had OpenAI 03.
03 on the OpenAI side. Hell yeah. Holy shit.
Yeah. That was August 5th, 2025. Gemini 2.5 Pro on Opus 4.1. Dude, if you had Opus 4.1 right now, the internet would melt down. They couldn't handle it.
This is me when somebody mentions Gemini 2.5.
I've not heard that name in a long time. Well, dude, I stumbled across a reel there. I sent it to a mutual friend of ours, and it was literally an 03 model, 02 or something like that, like maybe a year and a half ago. It's like, yeah, like it was talking about AGI. AGI, the model is the closest thing we've had to AGI. And I was like, man, like when you actually look back, like it's crazy. Yeah, that's crazy.
Dude, where do you think we're going to be in a year then? Like, I mean, we can't even extrapolate freaking linear progress, let alone exponential. This is like super exponential. Dude, next year, I'm telling you, the models could be deconstructing the matter of the planet to turn us into paperclips.
Well, I saw an interesting point of view about calling them ooms, like orders of magnitude of development, like what is the time rate to do one order of magnitude better? And the models themselves are getting around 3 times better a year.
Okay.
Paperclip apocalypse. Well, dude, you hit like irony maxing, right? Like the most ironic outcome is usually the correct one.
That's like a weird variant.
Dude, but like honestly, even Brian Johnson, the health guy, said he truly believes that he will face an ironic end. The guy focused on health will ironically not like go that way. So I think, yeah, what would it look like in a year's time? Well, if we look at, okay, one of the questions, I'm going to bring our 17 people in. What do you think the answer was the year before that?
Okay, so 1 year before 03?
So so you look at August 2023.
No, 2020, wait. 2024 or 2023?
2024.
Okay, 2024. We must have been like just arriving at like GPT 4 at that time, or maybe it was still even 3.5 or 3.6 turbo.
3.5 turbo, bro. Do you remember that?
Fuck yeah, I do. Jesus, me and 3.5 turbo had some fun, let me tell you.
Dude, well, it was Claude 3.5 Sonnet.
Oh, Jesus.
Gemini 1.5 Pro. And GPT 4.0.
They're like old friends. It's like you're like
they are old friends.
Names of my high school friends or something.
Dude, if we had like an AI yearbook, I'd be hanging out with GPT. GPT 4.0 is one that I remember the most.
Yeah.
Because it was the go-to.
I like that one. I like that one. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was very, very cool. We had a great time with it.
Now, you want to do some Q&A?
Yeah, I think you're on your channel, so maybe I might want to check out a different channel, but
all right.
We can answer your questions.
You just want to answer questions on my channel.
I don't mind answering your questions, bro.
Wait, who's this Jack guy? Okay, no, anyway, you want to read? You want to
Dude,
read about? You read.
how many
Been brief.
how many days consistently have we been dailying right now? I'm gonna check this in the background. Meanwhile,
Not enough, Jack. Nowhere
not
near
enough.
enough. Yeah.
No. What's
I
our
think we
first
could
question?
probably do 10. We could do 10x the days. Long question here from the Council of 17. You often mention you spin up multiple agents to tackle one task in tandem. In the spirit of application over consumption, I'm thinking of trying that on some repetitive data-heavy tasks in my own business. Do you have any particular recommendations on videos and resources for how to multi-thread agents in parallel or in hierarchies? I did some due diligence and found these. My question is, would you recommend anything specific outside of this video for trying this multi-threaded agent approach, e.g. spawning 10 agents all at once, not one by one? Thank you. Yeah, sure. I was actually just doing this for a course I'm recording. Make a long story short, I find the main value of AI agents really is not in like the quality, because, it's like there's still some big blind spots in terms of quality, but it's in the quantity. And it's in like the speed with which you can do multiple things. And so the main benefit is parallelization. And so if I'm coming up with an ideation process, or I'm trying to like generate candidate options, let's say some sort of ads or something, I don't know, like I'm just throwing out ideas here, but you're just trying to come up with many possible things to pick the best one. Just never do it alone. Don't just ask your main thread agent to do it. Say, spin up 10 sub-agents, all with slight variations of their initial prompt to try and span or search as much of the space as possible. And then, deduplicate and return me a condensed summarized list. Because it'll take the same amount of time that it would have if you just did it once, but now you'll have done it 10 times, and you will have consumed a lot more tokens as well. But the result is you'll get to span the search space a lot better. So that's typically what I do.
I love that. Two things about one is what are they doing, and the second is who is doing it. So parallel agents running at the exact same time is awesome. Just make sure that you give it a great question. So it's almost worth having a brainstorming strat with the model beforehand. And the other thing that I think I just add on to that is bring in the perspective of a different model. All of this, by the way, can and should be done in either Codex or Claude Code. So you don't need to leave those environments. I use another specialist agent for that and just have them in one window. But just make sure you got the right models on it too.
Agreed. GPT 5.6 Luna is looking pretty good to me at still being 1/3 the cost of DeepSeek. How much less intelligent is 40 intelligence compared to 50? 10
It's a good
points.
question.
Duh.
It's 10 less,
Smart.
I think, is the answer, my man.
Yeah, no, just
But I agree. Nick, I haven't touched Luna. I've only used Sol exclusively.
I've Luna'd a bit. I've taken her for a ride.
Did you know I'm a bazooka through the door kind of guy, man. I don't
It's fable.
I don't believe in appropriate measures.
Yeah, I know.
I will catch a jet for a 10-minute walk, Nick. That's how I roll with my models.
Sounds like a good answer to the question of would you rather walk or drive to the gas station? I'd rather take a jet.
I'll take a jet. That's what happens when you take ChatGPT 5.6 Sol or like Fable 5 Max Ultra Code for like asking about like freaking protein powder. That's what's happening right now.
OMG Everdo says, how much has your work capacity changed with AI? Has it had any ROI on the stuff you do? I'm curious to hear your take, Jack.
Yes, 100%. Probably more than we even appreciate. And a lot more. Let me give an example. Imagine not using AI. How ineffectual you would be. It's significant. It's crazy. It's nuts how much more effective we are.
I tried not using AI to write an outline the other day. I explicitly was like having a conversation with a friend of mine, and I was just like, hey man, like, I think AI is making me dumb because I'm not actually doing like the economic heavy lifting anymore. I'm not actually thinking through my problems. I'm just passing them off to AI. And he was like, me too. Let's just do it ourselves. It's like the first time that I'd like ridden a bicycle in like 14 years or something. Like I was rusty, man. And that's not a bad thing. This is just what happens with management, right? You used to be the best head trimmer on planet Earth, but now you want to start a landscaping business. So what do? You stop trimming the damn hedges yourself. You hire somebody to do it for you. It's natural that you would expect that your skills would decrease, right? They're not going to get better. They're obviously going to go down. So I tried writing an outline the other day and it was brutal. So yeah, I mean, like my work capacity intrinsically, my own capacity for work has probably gone down. The work that I'm getting done collectively with AI is probably 3 or 4x, I'd say. Not like 100x, but like 3 or 4x confidently.
Yeah, I'd say that. I'd say I'm getting more than 2 of me without AI at least. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. 4 boulder shoulders. Thank you, RJ. Thank you, RJ. How the future is going to look like. If you can imagine it, it can happen. And if you can't imagine it, it will also happen.
Very
That's
true.
pretty funny. Yeah, this guy is a paperclip maximizer. I don't think I don't
We
know
need
about
Glide in
this
there to
one.
translate this. We've got to
Yeah,
translate
what
this.
do you think about this one, Jack?
What a great point. And I think this is so important. It deserves a video on its own, which I
Yeah,
will make, which
you
we can
should
address in
actually
the next
record.
episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Guy on the top is low-key thirsty for the guy below. This must have been the tank top video.
Tank top video, 100%. Yeah.
The
Dude,
tank top
I think
instead.
that was a 20% of our dialogue. I had to look at that after the fact, actually. It was like 20% was on the tank top. So
Also,
funny.
weirdly, our highest performing video on record.
Jax Roberts channeling his inner Hulk Hogan. Dude, yeah, I was like, I should have ripped that thing off, dude. It was crazy. Yeah. I've been amazing.
Actually, like more modest to just take your shirt off at that point.
Yeah, I think so.
Tech
Future
to
is
Josh says it's doomed.
not for us, not on the 17 that they're working. Oh, we got a good one from. Oh, we appreciate, by the way, Tech
Yeah,
Jace.
thanks, guys.
Good one from
Yeah,
Kurt
you got
here
this
as
one.
well. Okay, he's puzzled. DeepSeek V4 and V4 Flash have now been available since May in their preview form. Fable 5, GPT 5.6 came out later than that. He didn't see any headlines in May. Those headlines should have appeared because due to the Matrix, V4 would have been better than anything on the market. He used V4 as his main model for OpenClaw. He struggled with the context window. He chose Gemini 3.5 Flash. He likes his personality. Most of that's gone away. I'm now thinking about coming back to V4 and maybe even the Flash. Interested if it lives up to the height capability to us. Well, for what you're describing, DeepSeek will do that with its eyes closed. So, yeah, I think that's fine. I do think the personality is a good question. For agents, though, honestly, I do recommend GPT 5.6 Sol because it rocks in your ChatGPT subscription, and just have it delegate to the kind of like cryonic models, and just have that as your like central intelligence system. But you can run the whole thing DeepSeek V4, but if it's your orchestrated agent, your day-to-day, personality is a thing, but your prompt can also carry that. But DeepSeek V4 would crush those things.
Yeah, I mean, probably. You know that I think Kurt, like, just so you know, they dropped a new one, July the 31st. Like, that's why it's DeepSeek V4 Flash 0731. Like, it's not a major model change or anything, but it's an upgrade. They probably did some more post-training on it. And so you're probably comparing it to a different sub-model too. So all the stuff you talked about, definitely doable. But yeah, I mean, like the specific, I think, upgrade was after 0731, which is the big one that they did a bunch of testing on.
100%. By the way, guys, we are live on Spotify, and I validated this today. I checked. We are on Spotify, and we have 13 stars.
We have 13 stars
people.
on Spotify.
13 of our 17 members have liked us on there.
Which one of you handsome, beautiful people are listening
Yeah,
to us on Spotify right now?
And we're also going to be bringing video to Spotify. We're going to figure this out. We should be able to figure video out Spotify. But we're on all the platforms you love and trust. Guys, have a beautiful day, and we'll catch you tomorrow.
See y'all later.